Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, Susie. How are you doing?
Not so much stubble as some of the pros.
I'm trying to keep myself somewhat groomed here. Oh, how have you been?
Yeah, well, it's like living in a Groundhog Day.
That is, that is.
Uh,
Trying to keep ourselves amused here. I think for the first couple weeks it was okay because things were like fresh and new, but now we're getting to the point where everybody's running out of stuff.
yeah, I mean, what's it like in the States?
Well, I think it's very different. I'm down in South Carolina, and everything's so spread out down here that we don't really notice that much difference.
Yeah,
You don't interact with people that much on a daily basis, anyways, and so we just kind of about life as normal. The only difference is that you just can't go out for food with friends.
yeah.
So you cook at home, but otherwise, the bigger difference I think when I was up in Boston and everything shut down there. That was when I kind of started to feel real. Um,
Yeah.
it's a bit scary up there, running out of supplies, and grocery stores not being able to refill fast enough, and things like that. So
Yeah, I mean that happened in London at the beginning, and it was just horrendous. The queues in Sainsbury's, which is a huge supermarket, which you obviously know Sainsbury's, were worse than at Christmas time. I mean, it was unbelievable.
yeah, that's the
But
thing.
now it's back to normal.
Yeah, everybody was always going to freak out for a little while.
Yeah, it's loo paper. What? Please tell me.
That's still a thing that's like even down here we can't you have to stock up because if you see it in the store you buy a couple rolls because you don't know when you're going to see it again.
This is where home should, like all the Latin countries, have bidets.
I was thinking that earlier actually, because desperate times we're getting there. So I see you and Robert have been doing a bunch of puzzles.
No, just Robert. I don't do those sort of
Ah.
puzzles. They drive me demented, and I want to cheat, and you can't cheat, so there's no point me doing it.
Yeah, I don't know how you can cheat on a puzzle, to be fair.
No, it's quite difficult.
Hmm.
You can't Google the answer.
Oh. Well, I appreciate you talking with me. I've been lucky enough. I talked to a lot of the pros over the last kind of month or so, and it definitely feels to me that from the court tennis perspective and pro side, the UK is definitely getting hit harder than any other country. Just from maybe obviously from the setup of the courts in the U.S. we have a lot more bigger clubs, so a lot of the pros over here are still getting paid their salaries and
Yeah.
have some sort of like coverage for this time. But it really feels like in the UK, everybody kind of all of a sudden went from gainfully employed and things are okay to how am I paying my bills next month?
Well, that's right. But the government, it, there are kind of two scenarios that are happening. If you are fully employed under the PAYE system, um, then the clubs, like Queen's, have furloughed their workers, and the government will pay 80% of their salaries up to £2,500 a month. That's the cap. If anyone's earning more than that, then it's up to the club basically. But that sort of level will help you. Mortgages can be deferred payment, and apparently interest won't accrue on the unpaid amounts. But for those who are self employed, they had to, because there's so many scammers. I mean, and you find that worldwide. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's the pros. The HMRC, which is our tax, like your IRS, have said that as long as you put in a tax return for the year ended 2019, they will then assess that year. And if you've got 3 years consecutive tax returns, they'll take the average and again pay you up to £2,500 a month.
Okay.
But that's not kicking in until June.
Oh wow.
So, so Rob and I have to say it was mainly Rob who just got on the blower to everybody, ascertained there were three pros who were going to absolutely fall through the cracks on this scheme. And so we found a way of getting money to them.
Oh, great! That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
I know it's such a scary thing. Court tennis, unfortunately, is that game where if you have to have kind of extra income to play court tennis, and so not only that, you have to so even though these clubs are kind of closed right now, I know a lot of people are still struggling, keeping membership, doing things like that for even when they reopen. So it's such a risky time for us right now.
Yeah, but just think of the positive. Just think of the number of balls that are going to be made and stocked.
I know. I've been making them. And you know me, I don't normally do that type of thing. So it's desperate if I'm sewing tennis balls.
Desperate. Get Gus to learn how to sew them.
Something. Well, that's been fun. I mean, yeah, the clubs are going to be fully stocked for a while when we reopen. And I think the big positive that I've heard from people around the world is that normally, like, the summer is a bit of a dead time for court tennis, at least in the U.S. And there's all of the members of the different clubs here in the U.S. just want to play. So the summer, which is normally our downtime, is going to be one of the busiest seasons when we can reopen.
Yeah, I mean, as you're probably aware, Boris Johnson got COVID-19 and he came back up to London, I think, on Sunday. He gave a talk outside number 10 and just saying we've got to be very careful. But I think the essence of that will be that lockdown will begin to finish. Football in England is in a terrible mess because the TV broadcast companies are being asked to refund the monies that they haven't been broadcasting. So basically, British football, the clubs not in the premierships could go broke. So there's tremendous pressure to get that started again. And so basically it will come down to economics in the end.
It always does. I mean, South Carolina, we've reopened, essentially. Phase 1, even though we're still on the rise in cases. They've reopened the beaches. They've reopened bowling alleys, gyms. So the Aiken Tennis Club, for example, here, I believe as of yesterday, could potentially reopen under certain guidelines. Which it's just insane, and it's all revenue. And I get it, all the small business owners need to reopen to stay afloat. But we're, down here at least, we're nowhere near through this.
Well, I mean, you just got to remember what your president said. Inject disinfectant.
I bought myself a bottle. I'm just going to add it to my coffee in the mornings. I figure I'll be good to go. I'm staying safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I wanted to chat about a couple court tennis things, because obviously you are kind of in the know as the head of as our fearless leader. So first one was obviously. Oh, well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you. Obviously, World Champs was supposed to have ended yesterday. Sunday. And obviously that didn't happen. But I wanted to.
Wasn't the dinner good?
I mean, I had a nice dinner that night. But first, I just want to say, thank you to you and the IWCC for your kind of swift action, because one of the things I was really impressed about was that we didn't know how extreme this was going to be, obviously, but I was really proud that the IWCC made the decision so early.
We're ahead of the curve.
Exactly, and that helped people who are booking tickets. People who had planned to come, all of the situations just were made a lot easier by that early decision.
Good.
And so I was really excited about that. And it's not often we get to have the edge on other games by,
Exactly.
But obviously it's been moved to October now, and I was wondering, this is just to be blunt, what you thought the odds of it actually happening were, because everything that I've read and all the statistics are showing that we're going to have a kind of a second wave of this coronavirus potentially in the fall. And so I guess the question is, do you think it will happen? And if it were to, say, not be able to happen then, do you think it would just get canceled until 2022?
Okay, I don't think it'd be cancelled until 2022. But that is just my gut reaction without having it discussed it. Honestly, Cam, crystal ball gazing doesn't really work.
Right.
And I think we just have to assume that flights will be back to normal. But on flights back to normal, it's mooted in the British press that if anybody travels to England, they have to go into 2 weeks quarantine. Well, heavens above. Yeah. And anybody leaving the UK to fly anywhere, they have to go into 2 weeks quarantine when they come back. Right. Now, if this should actually happen, I mean, we would say to you, well, you'll have to come 2 weeks earlier. Bad luck, you have to go on eating the English food and,
right.
And suffer.
Right.
But support-wise, you need your support. Would your supporters actually do that? And I think until probably 6 weeks before the event, and saying 6 weeks, that would seem to be an appropriate time. I think we just have to wait and see what actually happens and unfolds.
Right.
We just don't know.
Yeah. Well, that was where, because my only fear with it is that, potentially, let's say things could potentially be back to normal in October.
Yep.
But, that's just the match. And so, we're looking at, it kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of the Olympics where you need a period to train leading up to this. And
yep.
So, let's say in the US, I can't travel to Philadelphia or Tuxedo to hit with training partners without a 2-week quarantine ahead of time. I may be able to fly to England for the match in October, but I may not be able to train with anybody here in the US, as the lead up. So, so from a getting ready perspective, that's my kind of bigger worry with it is not so much, because I do believe that in October we'll be able to, if it was like playing without crowds or as you say, potentially having to come a little bit early, but we could make that match happen. But my worry is, are we going to be able to have a lead up that allows Rob and I to train properly for the event? But I shouldn't complain, because at the end of the day, if neither of us can train, I've got to think that's going to give me an edge.
Yeah, but remember, he's chasing after children and keeping fit with them.
That's true.
So, all those squats and lifting, hey, he's out there.
That's true. I can't even really train anymore these days, so fair. Okay, well, I mean, there is no right answer for it.
There isn't an answer, and we just have to wait and see, huh?
Yep. Oh, I'm eternally hopeful, like always. And on my end, the plan is just to continue to train as hard as I can with this, available training methods that I have, until I hear otherwise. So I know we're putting together a plan on the basis that it's going to happen, and we're moving forward with it.
That's exactly what you have to do. But remember, whenever you've had time out from the game due to injuries, you've come back and smashed everybody. So the answer there is actually, Camden, you don't need to train.
Yeah, I just do my normal thing. I mean, that's what I was saying that to someone the other day, that for everybody else, this like time away from real tennis is such a shock, because most of the pros, they're playing every day and doing all this. Yeah. Whereas I've had so many injury breaks. This is just a casual year for me. I'm expected to have a month or two off in the middle. It
will do you good.
Well, hopefully. Okay, so another question is, and this is just one that popped into my head the other day, but has there been any thought to protecting the world ranking points? Because obviously we're missing some events, and so we're looking at a potential point drop-off here. And I know it's equal across the board, but it's only equal if everybody's played. So if this...
Okay, a whole year would have to pass.
Okay.
For the points to drop off,
right,
or for the event to happen, because it's the first year, then in the second year, 2/3 drops off, and then a third drops off, and then those points are gone.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can look at it to see what's happening, but it's the same for everybody.
Right.
Actually, having said that, you're the one most likely to be affected because you've won the most.
Right.
But nobody's in touching distance of you.
I hope not. I just thought, that was my thought, was I could imagine all of a sudden coming back and being like number 6 in the world and being like, what happened? I didn't even play.
That would make you strive to achieve something again, Camden.
Okay.
I'll see if I can fix that.
I guess I need more motivation, I guess. Well, that's great. Otherwise, I mean, I think the big questions we have here in the U.S. are just, how do we recover properly, at least on the pros side, from this, because, getting back to normalcy, I guess in the UK, because everybody's slightly closer together, there is no like quarantine between cities, really, is there? Like if you live outside London, you can go into London.
Yeah, we just have to accept that the British live in rabbit warrens.
Fair. Whereas here, it's you just can't even go travel to a different club or anything like that. And so, we're like worried about opening our own clubs and getting that side back. But then, the idea of inter-club play and things like that is so far away for us right now still. And it's.
I mean, I don't know what you've been told by your government medical advice and everything. But social distancing is important. And there was a way that we were playing in the UK before lockdown of you don't hand balls over at the net. You give the person coming in from the hazard end plenty of time to pass you. And so you just kept your distance, basically. Doubles was always going to be harder. Especially if you play with my husband, because he has the ability to crash into you, and social distancing is really important then. But I think singles will come back, and you've just got to be sensible. Change your grips after a game. Bad luck, it's going to cost you whatever it costs you to change your grip. Wash your hands. Try not to wipe your face with your hands during a game. Use a towel. All those sort of things. You've just got to be sensible. Yep.
They've talked a lot in a couple different clubs around the U.S. about the potential of, not accessing things like the locker rooms and the no-hand, and almost going back to the more of the kind of standalone court type policy, even for these clubs, where it's you sign up for a court, it's singles only. You come, you play for an hour, you can get there 5 minutes before, you can stay 5 minutes after, then you have to leave, the next group's waiting at the door, that type of, zero interaction type policy for a while we get back into it, just to get people back out on court. I know 1 or 2 clubs have said, when I've kind of talked that through with them, have said, what's the point? If we're limiting the membership that much, is it worth paying the money to reopen? Because it costs money to all of a sudden open the club back up. And some have said that, to them it might be more cost effective to stay closed through that phase and wait until they can allow the membership to better utilize the club, just because it's not worth it. Whereas a lot of I think the smaller clubs will turn around and say, yes, 100%. If we can get people on court, we want to.
Yes. I mean, in the States, have you got an ageist policy on people having to isolate if they're over 70?
We're never ageist. Come on, we love people here.
We're quite ageist in the UK.
We don't have anything like that, like firm policy-wise that I know of. I think that there will be when the reopening starts. There's going to be an kind of advisory type thing for people over a certain age saying, stay home.
What about obesity?
We have a lot of obese people, yes.
Because actually, I mean, we slightly giggle about it. There does seem to be a link between being very ill with COVID and I'm being obese.
Really? I didn't know that. I hadn't heard that. Huh. I feel like, I don't know, I've watched a lot of news here in the U.S. and I feel like I get very little information.
Yeah, I'm not sure your news is giving you the facts.
I just don't know. Yeah, it's tough. You see a lot of stats every day, but you don't see much real news. So that's part of why I wanted to chat and hear about how it is, because I feel like I can get more information out of people from other countries than I can in my own.
Yeah, probably.
Well, one last thing is, obviously, there's a lot of real tennis players out there who don't have access to a court right now and are jonesing to get out there. Are you doing anything at home to either improve your tennis or kind of work on your tennis or have fun, or anything that you'd kind of advise other people to be doing?
Exercises.
Yeah.
Just do half an hour of exercise. If you can do more than half an hour, do them. Lots of upper body, lots of core strength, getting the heart rate up. You can either do Joe Wicks, but if you just go to YouTube and type in keeping fit at home, there's a plethora of stuff out there.
I like it. Just get moving.
You, when we're back on court, I mean, I am known personally, because obviously I want to talk just about myself, for not running and saying to my partner, yours. I'm now so fit. The change is unbelievable.
That's good. You've been proactive.
20 years off my life, so everybody can do it.
I love it. I agree. Yeah. Just get out there, be active, do something, right? It's better than sitting around.
Exactly.
Well, Susie, it's been nice to catch up with you. I hope you and Robert stay safe. Hopefully we'll get through this somewhat soon.
Yes, sooner rather than later.
Exactly. And I can't wait to get to the UK and catch up with you soon.
Okay. Bye, Cam.
Bye.
Bye.